Most people are stuck not because they don't have talent, not because they don't have opportunity, but because they are waiting for somebody to approve their next move, and that waiting is killing their destiny. You keep looking around for a green light from people who are just as confused as you are. You keep asking friends, family, coworkers, do you think this is a good idea? And every time they hesitate, every time they say maybe, every time they don't clap loud enough, you shrink back into safety. But listen to me, you were not born to live on standby. You were not created to pause your purpose until somebody else feels comfortable with it. The graveyard is full of dreams that died waiting for approval. Nobody is coming to validate you. Nobody is going to hold a ceremony and say, now you're ready. You become ready by moving. You become confident by acting. You become strong by stepping forward when your knees are shaking. Approval is comfortable, but growth is uncomfortable. And if you're serious about elevation, you've got to choose discomfort over applause. The truth is, some people won't clap because your movement exposes their fear. Your courage reminds them of the risks they never took. Your ambition highlights the excuses they keep making. So they'll question you, they'll doubt you, they'll tell you to slow down, not because you can't do it, but because they wouldn't. And if you listen to that long enough, you'll start playing small just to stay accepted. But playing small has never built a legacy. Playing small has never changed a family's future. Playing small has never created impact. You don't need everyone to understand your vision. They didn't give you the dream. They didn't place that fire in your heart. So why are you asking them to confirm something they never received? Movement creates clarity. Movement builds momentum. You don't need the whole staircase lit up. You just need the next step. When you move, doors appear. When you act, confidence grows. Sitting still magnifies fear. Overthinking multiplies doubt. Action destroys hesitation. And here's the powerful part. Once you start moving, people who doubted you will suddenly say they believed in you all along. That's how it works. Winners are questioned at the beginning and celebrated at the end. But you can't reach the celebration if you're stuck in consultation. You have to decide that your future matters more than temporary approval, that your calling matters more than comfort, that your growth matters more than fitting in. Stop polling the room. Stop waiting for unanimous support. Greatness has never been a group decision. It has always been an individual commitment. And the moment you stop asking for permission is the moment you take ownership. You don't need a vote. You need conviction. You don't need applause. You need action. You don't need approval. You need courage, so make the call, start the business, launch the channel, apply for the opportunity. Go back to school, change the environment, do the thing that's been pulling on your spirit, because 5 years from now, the pain of discipline will hurt far less than the pain of regret. And regret is what happens when you keep waiting for someone else to say go. This is your sign. This is your confirmation. It's time to move. You keep saying you're waiting for the right time. But the truth is you're waiting for approval, and that waiting is disguising itself as preparation. You tell yourself you just need more support, more reassurance, more validation, but deep down you're afraid to move without a guarantee. Let me tell you something straight. Guarantees are for average lives. If you want extraordinary results, you're going to have to move without consensus. You're going to have to step when nobody claps. You're going to have to believe when nobody confirms. Too many people are addicted to being understood. They won't launch the dream unless everyone agrees. They won't take the risk unless the whole circle signs off on it. But greatness has never required a committee meeting. The moment you decide to wait for approval, you hand over control of your destiny to people who don't carry your vision. And here's the problem. They can't see what you see. They don't feel what you feel. They don't wake up with that fire in their chest like you do. So when they hesitate, it's not proof that your dream is wrong. It's proof that it wasn't given to them. You have to stop interpreting other people's uncertainty as a sign to stop. Sometimes their doubt is simply a reflection of their own limitations. And if you build your life around their comfort zone, you'll never escape your own. Movement is scary, yes. It stretches you, it exposes you, it puts you in a position where failure is possible, but staying still guarantees something worse, regret. Regret is heavy, regret whispers at night, regret reminds you of what you could have been if you had just moved. Action might embarrass you temporarily, but inaction will haunt you permanently. You say you want to win, but winners don't wait for unanimous support. They move with conviction. They trust the process even when the path isn't clear. They understand that confidence doesn't come before action. It comes because of action. Every time you step forward despite fear, you build strength. Every time you act without applause, you build resilience. Every time you choose courage over comfort, you build momentum, and momentum is powerful. Once it starts, it carries you further than motivation ever could. The reason most people never reach their next level isn't lack of talent, it's lack of decisive movement. They overanalyze, they overconsult, they overthink. Meanwhile, someone with half their ability but twice their courage is already 10 steps ahead. You don't need everyone to like your move. You need to respect your own calling enough to follow it. You don't need permission to grow. You don't need validation to evolve. You don't need approval to execute. What you need is discipline. What you need is faith in your own capacity. What you need is the willingness to look foolish in the beginning so you can look formidable in the end. Because understand this, people will question you when you start, but they will quote you when you succeed. They will doubt you in private and praise you in public. That's the cycle, but you'll never experience the second part if you keep living in the first. So stop delaying your destiny because someone else is uncomfortable. Stop shrinking your ambition to protect other people's insecurities. Stop asking for permission to become who you were meant to be. The clock is ticking whether you move or not. The difference is movement puts you in control. Waiting keeps you stuck. And if you truly want change, real change, then it's time to stop waiting for approval and start moving with purpose. You keep looking for a sign, waiting for confirmation, hoping somebody important will look you in the eye and say, "Yes, now you're ready." But let me tell you something with intensity. Readiness is a decision, not a permission slip. The reason you feel stuck is not because you lack ability. It's because you're tied to the opinions of people who have never walked your path. Every time you delay your move to get approval, you are shrinking your power. You are telling yourself that someone else's comfort matters more than your calling. And that mindset will keep you average. The world doesn't pause to make sure you feel supported. Opportunities don't wait until your circle understands your vision. Time keeps moving. The question is, will you? You say you want more. You say you're tired of the same results. You say you're ready for another level, but readiness requires action. You can't pray for growth and avoid movement. You can't desire transformation and stay comfortable. Approval feels safe because it protects your ego. If everyone agrees and you fail, at least you weren't alone. But when you move without approval, when you step out on faith, when you bet on yourself, now it's personal. Now there's no one to blame, and that's why most people hesitate. They would rather share responsibility for mediocrity than own the risk of greatness. But listen, every leader you admire once stood alone. Every success story started with a decision that didn't make sense to the crowd. The crowd sees risk. You must see possibility. The crowd sees uncertainty. You must see potential. The crowd sees danger. You must see growth. Because if you let the crowd determine your movement, you will inherit their limitations, and limited thinking produces limited results. Movement is powerful because it changes you before it changes your circumstances. When you act despite fear, you build courage. When you step forward despite doubt, you build belief. When you execute despite criticism, you build resilience. That's how confidence is formed, not by waiting, but by doing. You don't need the entire map. You need the first step. You don't need universal support. You need internal conviction. You don't need applause. You need discipline. The longer you wait for approval, the more your dream fades into a what if. And what if is one of the most painful phrases you'll ever carry. What if I had started? What if I had tried? What if I had moved when I felt the pull? Those questions will weigh on you heavier than any temporary embarrassment ever could. Yes, some people will misunderstand you. Yes, some will doubt you. Yes, some will even criticize you. But their reaction does not define your direction. You cannot allow someone else's fear to become your ceiling. The moment you decide that your future is more important than being liked, everything shifts. You start making bold decisions. You start taking calculated risks. You start honoring the vision inside you instead of seeking validation outside of you. And once you begin to move, something incredible happens. Momentum. Doors start to open. Skills start to sharpen. Opportunities start to appear. Not because everything suddenly became easy, but because you finally chose courage over consensus. So stop asking for permission to become who you already know you're meant to be. Stop waiting for a round of applause before you take the stage. Stop delaying your destiny because the room is quiet. Silence is not rejection. It is space for you to act. This is your moment. This is your time. Move. You've been standing at the edge of your next level for too long, staring at the gap between where you are and where you want to be, waiting for somebody to tell you it's safe to jump, waiting for reassurance, waiting for approval, waiting for the comfort of consensus. But greatness does not live in consensus. It lives in courage. At some point you have to get tired of asking, tired of explaining, tired of shrinking your vision so other people don't feel uncomfortable. Because the truth is, when you decide to elevate, not everyone is going to celebrate. Some people benefit from the version of you that plays small. Some people are comfortable with the you that doesn't take risks. And the moment you start talking bigger, thinking bigger, moving bigger, you disrupt that comfort. So they question you, they advise caution, they suggest you wait. But waiting has never built a legacy. Waiting has never changed your last name. Waiting has never turned potential into power. Movement does that. Action does that. Discipline does that. You keep thinking you need more confidence before you start, but confidence is a byproduct of action. You build it by doing the hard thing. You build it by stepping forward when your voice shakes. You build it by moving without a guarantee. Stop telling yourself you'll start when you feel ready. You will never feel completely ready. There will always be risk. There will always be uncertainty. There will always be someone who doesn't understand your vision. But understand this, they didn't receive the dream. You did. They don't feel the pull. You do. They don't wake up with that restless fire in their spirit. You do. So why are you asking them to validate something that wasn't assigned to them? The longer you wait for approval, the more you train yourself to doubt your own instincts. And when you don't trust yourself, you hesitate. And when you hesitate, you miss windows of opportunity that don't stay open forever. You say you want success, but success demands boldness. It demands that you make decisions without polling the room. It demands that you stand alone sometimes. It demands that you risk being misunderstood. because the path to the top is not crowded. It's lonely, and if you're afraid of being alone, you'll stay average. But if you can handle solitude, if you can handle silence, if you can handle criticism without crumbling, then you are built for growth. Every major breakthrough in your life will begin with a decision that scares you, a decision that stretches you, a decision that forces you to rely on your discipline instead of other people's opinions, and once you move, really move, something shifts. You start seeing possibilities instead of problems. You start attracting opportunities instead of obstacles. Not because life suddenly got easier, but because you got stronger, because you stopped outsourcing your confidence, because you stopped asking for permission to evolve. 5 years from now, you will either thank yourself for moving or regret yourself for waiting. There is no middle ground. Time does not pause while you gather approval. The clock is ticking whether you act or not. So ask yourself, how much longer are you going to let other people's hesitation control your destiny? How much longer are you going to delay your growth because someone else is uncomfortable? You don't need agreement. You need alignment with your purpose. You don't need applause. You need action. You don't need approval. You need audacity. This is the moment, not next year, not when they finally understand, not when everyone claps. Right now, it's time to move.